Get out. Run! Help me. You're in trouble.
Witch.
Try some daytime activities you can do since the festival and a lot of the things for Bell Witch are not open until later today. So apparently we can do apple picking and we can get, if you can't tell she's excited, we can do apple picking, we can get apple butter. We're trying some homemade peach pie here at Shade Tree. Let's see. Oh my god, gosh, I'm delicious. So yeah, this is a shout out to Shade Tree. The owners are really nice, really cool people. We're telling them hi because they said they were going to try to find this episode. Nice to see you guys. Thank you for having us here today. It is delicious. So yeah, Shade Tree Orchard in Adams, Tennessee. Yes, and we got one more thing to try. It's these apple cider donuts. So we're each gonna try one and see what we think. So now we are here at Port Royal State Park. This is the 1850s old little general store that is now also a museum. We're gonna go in it, see what this town was like during the 1800s. This probably was here during the time of the bells and the Batses. So this whole area has been preserved to its 1800s aesthetic. And we can go look around, see those parts. Let's go.
Port Royal is actually a town. It was established 1797. The reason why is still to this day, this area produces dark fire tobacco. You can touch it, you can smell it, just please don't chew on it.
It had zero intention of chewing. I'm not gonna chew it.
That's a good rule for your time at the park. Touch it, smell it, don't chew. So if you're going through this area, this is kind of what it's like this time of year in this area. You're going to see some barns with smoke coming out of the top of them. Not on fire. They're producing this. What makes dark fire tobacco different is it's cured using smoke. Transportation back then.
Thank you.
The reason why we use barrels instead of crates, barrels roll.
Yeah. Makes your life easy.
It absolutely does. In fact, some roads, like Main Street, that was a rolling road. Basically, it was just wide enough to roll a barrel of tobacco. You give people long enough, they're going to find a way to cheat the system.
Oh, yeah.
So loading solids in here, the barrel opens here, and here, the ends. So what people were doing, good tobacco, not so good tobacco, leaves, straw. Some people would bootleg and put whiskey or something in there. Just whatever you want in the middle, and no one's going to get to it, right?
Yeah.
So this new law, whole barrel comes apart. Hoops come off, staves come off, you got a big lump of tobacco sitting there that you're going to inspect. But that means you're going to have a backup at the inspection. So keeping in mind that back then, Port Royal is a day's ride from any of the nearest towns. Clarksville's a day's ride to get here, do business, get back. Nashville's 2 days. People are going to have to stay here for a little while, right? So
was Adams around during this time or not?
Adams was, and people from Adams are actually bringing their tobacco here as well.
Okay.
Depending on where they lived, if they were closer to Springfield, they may go there, but most people are coming here.
Okay.
Now, Adams Adams is on the road 7 miles from here. As the crow flies, it's like 3.5 to 4 miles. So it's very close. A lot of the people from Adams interact with this town, vice versa. So one of the things you started seeing was taverns popping up here in Port Royal. Taverns being a hotel, a restaurant, and a bar.
Yep.
Now, keeping in mind the farmers in this area, they don't take vacations at that ever because they're working. So you get a little break away from your family. You got a couple days you're going to be in Port Royal waiting for the tobacco inspection, right? Farmers also get paid once a year when they sell their crops. So you've got your year's salary, you're away from your family, you got some taverns hanging around here, so we have pages from church records in this area talk about how so-and-so was chastised in church this morning for getting too drunk in Port Royal. So-and-so was excommunicated for not coming home for 3 weeks from Port Royal. At harvest time, this place kind of turned into the Las Vegas of its time.
Wow.
It's in Port Royal, stays in Port Royal kind of thing. You guys are about to light up on this. It was actually built as a Masonic lodge.
We have had negative experiences inside them where we get touched a lot. So we're like, oh, yay. We saw the sign outside and she immediately was like, oh, here we go again.
It's really funny. Anytime I mention this as a Masonic lodge, you can almost see the reaction on people's faces like, oh. Like they don't know how to feel about it.
They're like, I don't want to be in a Masonic lodge.
So it was built in 1859. This is the earliest known photograph in 1895.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So it was built 2 stories. The temple, meeting space, lodge, what have you, was upstairs. This one's a little bit more unique from what I understood about Masonic lodges, in that it was almost like a community center. Like they had court cases up there. They had recitals, dances, and all sorts of stuff up there. And even, today I know you're not really supposed to go into a Masonic lodge unless you're a Mason. But back then, it was
anyone could. Yeah, we
So-
saw a thing outside that there was a murder trial or something held
There was a
upstairs.
couple.
Yeah.
Two. One man who was murdered coming back from church. One was the town being attacked by a group called the Night Riders in the Tobacco Wars.
Okay, I know a little bit about that, yeah.
So this is what the building looked like when it became a state park. Yeah,
It had fallen apart.
a little bit. It'd been through 2 fires, a tornado. So this was the park's first attempts at restoration. We don't know if they didn't know this photograph existed or were just going based more on kind of what they saw there. But you can, spot the difference in these two, and you can see they missed, the parapets are wrong, the windows are smaller.
Yeah.
Biggest thing they missed, that tornado took a whole foot off the top of the building.
Yeah.
So our current park manager, he got here about 2017 and kind of started putting it more back to the original look of it. Now we know that when the Masons built their 2-story lodges back then, the upstairs was the temple, lodge, whatever. The downstairs they rented out, just so they had some money coming in.
Yeah.
Most often whoever rented this room operated a general store out of it. So that's kind of what we're trying to set it back to.
Yeah.
Now the building's not finished. It's like your house, it's never going to be finished. It's always a project.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of the work ourselves. But we have ledgers from a couple different general stores for about an 8-year period from the 1880s into the 90s. So we can actually document all of these items were sold here in the town. When you go over to the town site, you'll see there's some square stone formations. Those are foundations of buildings.
Okay.
Because you see how the road is kind of on a ledge.
Yeah.
They actually built the buildings hanging off the ledge and stone foundations up to meet them.
Okay.
So some of those stone foundations are still there. Actually, that building, that's one of the last photographs of it before it was torn down.
Okay.
It was torn down in 1984. It was condemned. It wasn't safe for anyone to be in there, but we really wish we could have had a chance to preserve it.
Right.
No, this is something the researcher found out. So, kind of fits in with what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The name Price. Ring any bells? Vincent Price, yes.
And that's what kept going in my head. I'm like, I don't want to wrong.
That is Vincent Price's ancestor.
Oh, shit.
He
That's
actually
cool.
invented cream baking powder, which it's more like a paste.
Yeah.
But that company, this product was how, when he grew up, Vincent's family had enough money, he didn't have to go work in fields or factories. He could study acting.
Yeah.
One of the last things Vincent Price did before he passed away is he published a cookbook.
Ties between here and Adams and everything. So
Okay.
since it's so close, like the history shared between the 2 cities.
So I'm guessing you wanted to know about the Bell Witch.
Oh yeah. And it was because was this town around during the Bell Witch
Oh, yeah.
era?
Absolutely. These two towns interacted quite a bit at that point. The Bell family, at this point you had the great the bank panic. Banks were recalling loans. The Bell family, they're rich enough; they're still handing loans out. That's John Bell was one of his son, one of the families that contributed to the mill that used to be here in Port Royal. So the state law said that the Red River had to remain unobstructed, which means no dams and no mills, from the state line all the way into Clarksville, where it meets the Cumberland River.
Yeah.
Several wealthy people wanted to put a mill in there. They petitioned the government. They got some signatures. Everyone else in the town was like, that's fine because we can still use the river, but people upriver can't. So Adams is pretty much shut off from the river access there.
Right.
A lot of people signed the petition to stop it. More people signed the petition to stop than signed the petition to do. The sons did, and they had money. So there was a mill here in Port Royal. The Bell family had some ties to it. But like I said, the towns are very close to each other. So you would have people doing business in both of these two towns.
Yeah.
Port Royal never had a railroad, so eventually people in Port Royal are going to go to Adams for the railroad access. Lots of different interactions. Here's where we connect to the Bell Witch story.
Okay.
If you remember from the story, John Bell had a personal physician. His name was George Hobson. So if you look at the map here, this little stream right over here, Hobson Spring Path. So that's the route. This is the actual waterway fed from a spring on the Hobson family farm.
Okay.
George Hobson lived here in Port Royal.
Okay.
So one of the things we speculate is, when this building was a tavern,
Yeah.
the tavern, they don't have social media back then.
Right.
That's where you go to, hear the tea. You get the gossip. You go to the tavern.
Yep. Yeah.
George Hobson's coming back in from hearing, checking on John and everything, and everyone's sitting there waiting like, what's going on over there? What's happening? Spill the tea. We need to know about this witch thing.
So yeah, that then ties to one of the stories that for research they said that the ghost was able to tell them what was happening a town over.
Right.
That they were talking about the witch in the tavern, and suddenly the voice of the witch was appearing in the tavern.
Now, never seen any evidence of that happening here about this, hearing voices here in this tavern or anything. But yeah, so there's, still all sorts of ties to it. The town of Adams, they pretty much live off of tourism this time of year. Several books have been written on the Bell Witch. We'll say about Envy Ingram. Actually, a local woman named Harriet Parks Miller wrote an account of it. Hers is in the Bell Witch anthology. I think that's the collection of all the books that so far have been written about them. Different versions, have different events in different places here and there, but our park manager, he showed me where the Bell family home was, and we drove around, and he's like, this little spring you see over here, this little creek, that's where Betsy first heard the voices. And it's like, God.
Yeah.
Imagine these settings in my head that I'm actually seeing these places.
So here guys, this over here is the foundation for the tavern that was actually around during the time of the Bell Witch case. This is where the Dr. Hobson would come when he was done with the Bells and taking care of John Bell when he was dying at the very end, most likely from arsenic, as we now know today. He would come back, tell the people here what was happening to the Bells. All around this whole building was just the tavern. And that is where other first-hand accounts we now have of other people saying they could hear him talking about what he saw at the Bells farm comes from, so we know from besides only the Bells, that it really happened. The Bell Witch is real, guys. I'm now going to be at the bottom of what is left of this tavern. I'm going to do a short Estes method setup. We've kind of realized that here in Port Royal especially, we cannot do anything with the voice recorder. It's just way too loud. We're right next to a major road. So we're just going to rely on only Estes, since that's pretty much what we got that sound won't affect. Yeah.
There's that rooster again.
wow, that was instant. Alright. So, anyone want to say hello? Does anyone remember hearing the stories from Dr. George? Like telling what he would witness at the Bell Farm? We are here to be respectful. We only want to know.
I'm getting nothing, dude.
Really? Damn.
You guys can come talk to me. Speak into this little machine here and I'll be able to hear you.
We don't mean any...
What?
Okay. We don't mean any disrespect. We just want to see if anyone remembers what they would hear from Dr. George in this tavern.
Hey,
Hello. Anyone want to say anything? Anyone recollect anything? Even if you just want to tell us about your day on the farm. Nothing? Damn, okay. And I'm just like, hey, even if...
I think that's actually kind of good. It shows that, like, not everywhere, just because you're in a super haunted town or town adjacent, it doesn't mean every single place is going to hold on to things. I sat in the actual foundations of an area where Bell Witch was very commonly spoken about, and nothing happened. So I think that kind of adds a little extra validity more for how Estes works, is that it's not always a 100%. And this is the sucky part of paranormal investigation, parapsychology, is it's really hard to get constant. But let's keep going.
You asked what the town is like in the fall. Really around here, especially closer in Robertson County, it's very foggy in the mornings. And then you combine that with the smoke coming out of the barns.
Oh, yeah.
So it's almost like a smoky kind of fog, and it's really incredible. Do you remember the story of who the accused witch or conjurer was?
Yep. Kate Batts.
Yes. On my first date with my now wife, she informed me that she was a direct descendant of Kate Batts.
I knew we were going to come across a descendant somewhere.
I told you we'd run into descendants.
So I've been on my best behavior ever since. I'm married to her descendant, but I have a bit of a different, opinion on Kate in that,
Right.
Her husband was injured. He couldn't work.
Yeah.
The only thing Kate ever did was take care of herself and her family.
Yes.
Yes.
We
We came to the same one when we were like doing just
Right.
straight up research. We were like, we don't see her as this
Right.
bad person.
Yeah.
You think about all the different things that are happening at that time. You have a meteor shower that turns the sky red. You had the New Madrid earthquake, which made the Mississippi River flow backwards.
Yep.
Supposedly they heard bells ringing in Boston because of this earthquake. Created Reelfoot Lake. It was a huge earthquake. You had that happen in 1811, 1812. You had the War of 1812. You had the panic of, Tecumseh creating this pan-Indian alliance to finally push the white people off the land forever, so people are fearful of that. You have diseases, the War of 1812 just happened, all this stuff, and everywhere else around here. You know what? Crazy stuff happening. We need to get right with God. Everyone get to church. Revival. Everywhere breaks down revival. Port Royal, Adams, and some of this little area. No, it's gotta be a witch. That's what it is. There's something bad. There's one person causing all these problems. It's not us. We're good. We got to find this person causing the problems. The best, visual image I've ever seen of this, and not applicable, but you seen the Simpsons movie?
Yes.
Okay, the part that put the dome over the city and everyone's freaking out. We're all dying. They had this overhead shot of the church and Moe's. Everyone in the church runs into the bar. Everyone in the bar runs into church.
Yep.
That's this area. Everywhere else goes to church. Port Royal and Adams, they go to the bar and start running the posses. So, it's odd how, people, whole towns and areas can react one way, but, one or two react a little bit differently. But really the whole dispute was, the only thing that branded Kate as odd was she was having to do man's work because her husband was injured. her son couldn't do any work around the town because he had been with Andrew Jackson at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. He and some other soldiers didn't like some of the way Jackson treated some of the Cherokee or I'm sorry, that was the Creek, the Red Sticks. They spoke out against him. Jackson kicked them out of the army, rendered them as deserters, which means they don't get their pay. They got to find their own way back home. Half of their head is shaved, and their names are published as deserters in the town newspapers.
Damn.
So her son's coming back to that. Who's going to do business with him, right?
Yeah.
So that's already affecting her livelihood. Now she's got to do all the work herself. Now she's got to do the public side of it as well. The woman was, exhausted. And it was, people looking at her saying, well, this is not normal. This is odd. This is odd behavior. Maybe this is connected with, poor John. They had a fight in the middle of church service one day because John was, not being too, giving with, the bank loans and the personal loans that he's given out and everything. And, it ends up being, the rich white man against the, more destitute white woman who's having to work on her own, being self-reliant. So.
Right.
Yeah. How does your family, since you come from family tied to Kate Batts, how do they feel about her portrayals? Or like the theory that the reason she cursed him was that they were lovers and she was a scorned lover?
I think that was added a different story for, dramatic flair. I think. I don't think there was ever a relationship. And of course, I wasn't there. I don't know.
Yeah.
But my wife, it's actually through her mother that she's related. They think it's kind of a cool family piece of history. They relate to this locally famous, infamous person. My mother-in-law uses it to torment my father-in-law all the time. Like, you better watch it. I'm gonna get Kate on you. So it's almost kind of like a family inside joke, but they have pretty much the same idea I did. It's if there is a supernatural, preternatural connection to it, okay.
Right.
But otherwise, it's this is their family history. So.
Yeah. I don't think I have any other. Oh wait, no, I do have one because we went to the Batts Cemetery yesterday. We could not find Kate at all. We kept looking. Is it like, was she never given a grave for her like protection of desecration, or?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't think I ever knew that she didn't have a grave or a marked grave there.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would say it was probably later on, like they removed any markings of her grave for that particular reason.
Okay.
Because we found a Sarah Batts, Priscilla Batts.
Bunch of Benjamins, a Jonathan. Like, we found all these others. We couldn't find her or her husband.
I don't know about that.
I have to ask you the obligatory, like, spooky questions. Have you ever had a paranormal experience anywhere in Port Royal?
So I've only been here a year. My park manager, he actually used to live, the upstairs used to be the ranger residence for a while. He actually lived up there for quite a few years. His grandmother used to live in like one of the only original frame structures from Port Royal. So he's been here his whole life. He's had a few experiences. I personally have not yet. Like I said, I've been here a year. But according to him, because I've known him before I started working here, he'd tell me all these stories. I'm like, dude, I'm never going to work with you at this park if you keep telling me stories like this. And here I am. But he was the one who spearheaded the renovation of this building. And he said, for some reason, once they kind of put the general store kind of back to its original state, I haven't really had any experiences.
Okay, so it seems like everything settled when it went back to its old style.
Conceivably, yeah. It's, I try my best to, walk the line on this because, I'm smart enough to know I don't know everything. I've got 5 ways to interpret this world. Just because it doesn't hit on one of those senses doesn't mean it's not there. Right.
Yeah.
So if it is or it isn't, I've had stories I can't explain at other historic sites, but I've never really felt in danger in any of the places I've been to.
Well, that's good, yeah. What were the kind of things you would hear? Was it just like the regular creaks and groans, or?
Some, there are footsteps. A lot of rangers used to talk about they would hear like footsteps following them up the road. This road right here, which used to be the main road connecting Springfield and Clarksville. Yes. Royal.
Hello, everyone. It is that time again. when I am editing and I realize something is terribly wrong with the video or audio footage, so I have to pop in. Thanks to Park Ranger Chad Burgess, who you have been listening to throughout this whole interview, we were able to partake in an event that Port Royal was hosting that evening, which was a superstition night where they took us around to various areas within the state park, telling us about urban legends and cryptids that are found within that area of Tennessee and Kentucky. It was a very interesting night. I have some really cool video footage, but the audio is terrible. And if I try to up it and mess with the audio, the ranger sounds like a robot. It's not really that fun to listen to. So unfortunately, you can just look at some of the fun images right now as I'm talking. Again, special thanks to Port Royal State Park, to Park Ranger Chad Burgess, especially for his interview. It's been an awesome interview, and this is only part of it. If you enjoyed hearing him and you'd like to actually learn more, I had to cut out a lot of the history of Port Royal and of the area, as well as some of the other just history of that section of Tennessee, Kentucky. If you are interested in learning about those, I would definitely say go listen to the rest of our interview with Park Ranger Chad Burgess, because it is awesome. He is funny. He is great. You can find the entire interview unedited on our Patreon. It will be going up sometime this week, because I have to edit it all together because my camera died in the middle and we had to switch cameras. It was a fiasco. But again, special thanks to Chad Burgess and to the Port Royal State Park. And a final special thanks for this episode to Shade Tree Orchard for having us in the morning and giving us some delicious treats to start our day. Our final big thank you for this episode goes, of course, to Pierce for the awesome music you have been listening to. Pierce is a local Nashville artist. You can find all her stuff on YouTube, on Instagram, TikTok. She's great. Go listen to her. She's phenomenal. And finally, thank you for watching Macabre Matters. If you have enjoyed watching us, please give our show a review or think about going onto our Spotify and donating to listener donation. Any and all donations are appreciated. Go to helping us better our production. We are already in works planning where we are going for next Halloween. Hint, hint, I'm going to shove Izzy into a very haunted location all by herself. Please look forward to that. Please share our show with your friends. We can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, here on YouTube, or anywhere else you enjoy listening and watching podcasts. You can also join our Patreon. Members of our Patreon get shoutouts and videos. They can request topics, receive special live episodes with us, and listen to that amazing interview with Chad Burgess. Link to the Patreon is in the description. If you have any questions or comments, email us at macabremattersofficial@gmail.com. If you want to get to know us better, please follow us on Instagram and Threads at Macabre Matters Official, YouTube Macabre Matters Podcast, and like us on Facebook at Macabre Matters. You can also join our Discord server where you can talk and hang out with us. All the links are in the description. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a delightfully grim evening. Good night.